Rawr!
Ew.
Hello and welcome to Midnght Readings. Today we'll be reading The Door, written by Jack Daniel. And as always, these are our amazing Patreons. Link is in the description if you wish to join. And it really does help us keep our dear little Luna happy. Now, shall we get to it? It appeared suddenly one day, with little fanfare, a plain brown door with a brass knob, and no other distinctive markings, save for the words, Twilight Sparkle, engraved neatly into it. It stood independently, save for its doorframe, in the middle of Twilight's bedroom, in the Castle of Friendship. When Twilight woke up one morning and first saw it, she was struck by curiosity, rather than fear and dread that would soon become staples in her future. Her first thought was that it might have been some kind of prank by Rainbow Dash or Pinky. That didn't seem right though. The eeriness of something like this didn't fit into what she was used to from those two. No, not eerie. Creepy. I better check to make sure nothing's going on with it, Twilight thought to herself, preparing her magic to reach out and grasp the door handle. After all, she could never be too careful. In her time as an element of harmony, she had made a few powerful enemies, not to mention that she was a princess now, one with no royal guard at that. As soon as Twilight's magic made contact with the door, she immediately recoiled. Most physical objects, when held in magic, tend to have a certain feel, different from what you might get if you held it directly in your hooves, but still consistent. This door, though, was unlike anything she'd ever felt before. Twilight then decided to run a series of tests to ascertain the nature of the door, but each test that she ran only served to greatly increase the deepening sense of wrongness that she felt. The door's nature defied all logic, both scientific and arcane. Twilight was becoming more and more certain that this door did not belong here. Not just in this castle, but in this plane of existence. The thought that this could be discord did cross her mind, but she was familiar with chaos magic, and this was nothing like it. Besides, she recalled an earlier conversation with Fluttershy, where she told her that she hadn't seen him in a couple of weeks now. With no other recourse, save for contacting Celestia, Twilight decided to try and ignore it for now. It wasn't really doing anything anyway. She just hoped it would stay that way. Twilight didn't have much of a choice either, seeing as how Spike and Starlight were away at the Crystal Kingdom. Twilight set out to try and get some things done, but the door remained fixed, firmly in the back of her mind. Twilight hadn't been able to get anything done that day. Thoughts of the door had remained in her mind all day. The more time passed, the more questions plagued her. Why was the door there? How did it get there? Why did it have her name on it? And where did it lead? The last one didn't make much sense to her at first. It was a freestanding door in the middle of the room after all. But Twilight couldn't shake the sense that it definitely led somewhere. Questions of exactly where were what had left her exhausted and more than a little frightened. It was getting late, so Twilight resolved to at least try and get a little sleep. However, the thought of sleeping in the same room as that door was too off-putting, so she settled for taking one of the guest bedrooms down the hall. Twilight went through the motions of preparing for bed and laid down to sleep. The door hadn't done anything all day as far as she was aware. She just had to hope that it wouldn't change. She managed to fight the constant feeling of unease long enough to fall asleep. It was short-lived. She didn't know how long had passed since she had last closed her eyes when she was awoken by a noise, if you could even call it that, coming from her room down the hall. Quite frankly, it was indescribable. Even more so to Twilight's sleep-addled mind. She was quickly waking up, however, thanks to the deepening dread that was flooding her system. If Twilight had likened the sound to something closer to pony comprehension, then it would be a choir of voices, singing, talking, discontently, but in perfect harmony. They didn't speak any language Twilight had heard, and yet she could understand them perfectly. They were beckoning her towards the door. At first, Twilight tried to ignore it, putting a pillow over her ears and humming to drown it out. All of her efforts were for naught, however, as the noise persisted, seeming to echo directly in her head. The fear she was feeling was overwhelming now. She could sense the seething malintent of the voices, and she knew with absolute certainty that whatever lay beyond the door wanted to do terrible things to her, and that were she to cross the threshold, she would never return. At the same time, the voices possessed a hypnotic quality, one that drove her towards the room, and in turn the door. It wasn't long before her limbs were moving, seemingly against her will. In what felt like no time at all, she was standing in front of her room. When she entered, the first thing she noticed was that the entire room was bathed in a soft red glow. The glow's origin was a red light that seeped from under the door's frame. Aside from that, though, nothing seems to have changed. It struck Twilight that she would definitely be going through that door, and that free will had long since abandoned her. A mix of emotions rushed over her. Helplessness, fear, and the profound sadness at never seeing her loved ones again. The voices had reached a deafening crescendo at this point, swiftly working to drown out every other thought. Twilight reached a surprisingly steady hoof forward, turned the knob, and walked through. She never returned. Well, that's a little creepy. Twilight, maybe you should have told someone. Then again, we don't know if the door will stay there, and if anyone will realize what has happened. Perhaps she'll just disappear out of the blue. Or perhaps, if the door does stay, or some remnants, Celestia might know exactly what happened, and feel bad she never warned her student. A little headcanon for me. That was The Door, written by Jack Daniels. I hope you all enjoyed, and keep watching that moon, everyone. Bye!